All right. Welcome back from the break. It's really exhilarating for me to see so many Firebase developers in one room. In fact, this is the first time I've been able to make it to one of the Firebase Summits, so I think this might be the most Firebase developers I've seen in one place ever. And I know it sounds cheesy, but it's also true. Firebase is driven by the developers who use our products every day. In fact, that's actually how Firebase came to exist in the first place. Firebase started with the real-time database. And you may not know this, but the real-time database started as a hosted service to allow websites to let their users chat with one another. And the users of this service, it turned out that they wanted to do more than just send messages. So they were using this service, but they weren't sending text like hello or how's it going. They were sending JSON payloads and using it as a real-time sync service. So talking to these developers, we realized that real-time was very powerful and also very difficult to implement. And so a new product was born. A database that lets you store any kind of data and synchronize it in real time to lots of connected clients. In other words, Firebase. But we weren't done listening to developers, because once you can synchronize data in real time, how can you let users write to it while still keeping it secure? So we listened to that, and we built Firebase Authentication to manage users and to have powerful authorization logic through security rules. But we still weren't done listening, because once you can build an entire application using nothing but HTML, JavaScript, and CSS, where are you going to put it? So we built Firebase Hosting to make publishing your static assets as easy as typing Firebase deploy. And we kept on listening, and we kept on building. We joined forces first with Google, then with Fabric. And today, I can show you how to build almost any type of application on almost any platform using nothing but the suite of tools that Firebase gives you. But we're still not done listening to you. We've heard that you don't just want new pieces to fit into the puzzle that is your application. You also want help fitting them together into a larger picture. One way to do that is with Cloud Functions for Firebase. Functions are deeply integrated into Firebase and give you a trusted serverless environment to run your code. You can write functions to do almost anything. And believe me, talking to you here today, we've seen some pretty creative use cases. But like I said, we've been listening, and when we talk to you, we hear many of the same things come up time and time again. Now, we can, and kind of do, spend a lot of time answering questions on Stack Overflow or our mailing lists, or even providing code samples to help you save a little bit of time. But at the end of the day, what we really want to do is just solve these common problems for you so that you can go back to working on the things that make your app unique and awesome. So we're here today to introduce an exciting new part of the Firebase platform, Firebase Extensions. Extensions are open source, pre-packaged solutions for common problems we've heard about from developers like you. Extensions can tie together existing products from Firebase and Google Cloud Platform, integrate with third-party services, or even just implement patterns that we've seen out in the wild. We built extensions as a platform to bring new capabilities to Firebase faster than ever before. Extensions leverage the powerful infrastructure already available in Firebase without the need for you to write a single line of code. When you install an extension, you provide a few simple configuration parameters, and we do the rest. We create new resources in your project, like Cloud Functions, and we connect those to existing resources like your Cloud Firestore database, and then perform actions like sending email or anything else that might be a problem you need to solve in your application. My name is Michael Bleigh, and I'm an engineering lead on the Firebase developed products. And rather than just tell you how easy extensions are to use, what I really want to do is show you what extensions can do in your Firebase projects. For that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Annie.
Hey, everyone. I'm Annie Ryan, and I'm a UX designer for Firebase. Now, Michael has showed you a bit of the what behind extensions, but I'm going to talk through how we've thought about the journeys because, well, I'm a user experience designer. Now, here's our app-friendly eats. And we've been thinking about adding a share feature to these restaurant pages. Now, there's an extension that can help us with that. So I'm going to get right to demoing how just that one extension can get that feature up and running. So now here we are in the Firebase website in the Firebase Extensions page. And as I scroll down, you'll see a list of all the extensions that you can install today. And these are solving common developer problems, such as resizing images to various thumbnail sizes you may need in your app, to deleting user data, which deletes data keyed on a user ID from such services like cloud storage and real-time database. But I just spoke about adding a share feature to Friendly Eats. And the trigger email extension could help us do that. So I'm going to click and see more details. Now, each extension has a robust detail page, such as this, which tells you a bit more about how this extension will work in your project. It also provides links to the Firebase documentation on extensions, and also a link to the source code. And there's also details on billing and what billable services this extension is going to use. You can see more details on exactly what you can configure, and also the resources that it's going to generate. Now, I'm going to install this extension through the Firebase console, but you could also install the extension through the Firebase CLI if you want a more programmatic way of managing your extension. So now we've given this page a quick look through, I'm going to get right to installing it. This is going to bring me right to the Firebase console, and I'm going to select a project to install the extension within. And since we're talking about Friendly Eats, I'm going to select the project Friendly Eats. And that brings me right into the guided step-by-step flow to install this extension. The first thing I'm going to do is review that it's using just one Cloud function called process queue, which is going to process the document changes in Cloud Firestore. And then I previously talked about billable services, so it's letting me know that again. But I'm only going to be charged for the usage that exceeds Firebase's free tier. I can go read more about that as well. And now I need to give this extension permission to do things in my project. And it's going to generate just a service account that has the Cloud Data Store user role. And that's basically going to allow this extension to access my database instance. But now we're getting to the fun part, which is modifying this extension to meet Friendly Eats needs. I'm going to leave the deployment location as US Central, but here I need to provide my SMTP credentials for my email delivery provider. So let me just paste those in here. And then I also need to specify a collection for the email documents. I think mail sounds good, so I'm going to leave that as the default. And then I'm going to use a no reply for my default from address. That looks good. I'm also going to use that as my default reply to address. And users collection, I'm going to leave that blank for now. I can go back and edit that later. And then I'm going to use the templates feature, which allows me to use reusable handlebars templates to render these emails. And I'm going to call that templates. And that's it. After just a few steps and a few fields, I'm ready to install this. And so as this extension is installing, I'm landed in the extensions details page in the Firebase console, where I can see a list of all my installed extensions. And that's it. This extension will be fully deployed in just a few minutes. So now you've seen the process of installing an extension. And you may have noticed that this is a bit different than other prepackaged solutions out there. Well, user research played a huge part in making this a full end-to-end platform. Quite simply, we listened to developers like you. In fact, 700 of them. And this encompassed 10 different research methodologies over the course of 10 months. We listened for hours, literally. We tested 3 iterations of the experience along the way, and continually reevaluated the array of extensions that you can install. Now, these extensions have been put through the test to ensure that you're getting through these common app development problems quickly and efficiently. So that's all good to know, right? But how did this research help? Well, it gave us some guiding principles to keep us on track. One principle being transparency. And simply put, we strive to be respectful to our users. And one way to do that is to provide you with a transparent experience that's mindful of your needs and your expectations. And we heard directly from developers throughout this process about the ways and they wanted extensions to be a more transparent experience. And one of those ways being the source code. One developer called out that even just seeing a link to the source code, one link, upped their trust tenfold in the product. They wanted to be able to access that more frequently during the install process. So I'm going to take a closer look at how this affected what I just showed you. So immediately, as you're browsing through the details page of this extension, you're provided with the source code. And as Michael has said, all Firebase extensions are open source. Now, this is something we know developers are really keen on because it's a direct view into the glue that holds this functionality together and allows you to trust that it's going to do what it says it's going to do. Also, as you're going through that guided installation flow, you can view the source code at any time. As the extension is deploying, you are still provided with more opportunities to view the source code. Another developer early on in our process specifically called out that the permissions needed to be more descriptive. We weren't displaying enough information. So right as you get to step one of that install flow, you know the exact cloud function that's going to be evoked, along with an explanation as to why it's even being used at all. We also made sure to provide you with a complete list of roles, so you know the exact access that this extension will have in your project. You're provided with both a description and a rationale as to why it's being used. So there's really no surprises here. And top of mind amongst nearly all the developers that we listened to was understanding how usage relates to cost. So we really took this into consideration in later iterations. So right within the details page of the extension on the Firebase website is a section on billing. And we know this is really important when you're choosing a service to use. So these details provide you with information on how this extension will consume usage for those specific services within your project. Now, our second principle is control. And that's about flexibility. So you can get up and running quickly, no matter what your expertise level is or what workflows you have established. And we kept hearing about customization during this research. Developers wanted to know how much flexibility they would have before they even installed. Like, how well is this going to work for them and their needs? So how did we take action on this? Well, the extension's details are also super explicit and open as to what this extension will do once installed in your project. For example, with Trigger Email, you know exactly, nearly step by step, how Firebase is going to render and send those emails from Cloud Firestore. And again, to let you know if this extension will work for you, you can view every way in which the extension can be modified and exactly what it's going to generate in your project. And when we first started testing, we were testing CLI only. But many participants said, you know, I'm not super familiar with the Firebase CLI. And we know not everyone works in the same way. So multiple installation options have been provided to you. All you need to do is to choose the path that you are most comfortable with. So we could have thrown all of these solutions up in a GitHub repo and told you to have at it. But we wanted to make sure that this was an excellent developer experience and something that you could trust to work seamlessly for you. Now Michael's going to show you how Trigger Email will work within Friendly Eats.
Great. Thanks, Annie. All right, we're already on the demo. And it's working this time, so we're already running at 100%. So here I am in my Friendly Eats app, and this is just running on a local Firebase serve instance. And you can see that if I click through to my prime spot restaurant here, I've already done a little bit of the UI work that I need to implement this new email sharing feature. So I have this add a review button, and next to it, I have a share button. So I'm going to click the share button. That brings up this prompt. And let's see, what's a good test email? How about amytest@mail? There we go. And check out this restaurant live on stage. And I'll click the share button. Oh, wait, I got an alert here. To do, send email here. I hope this isn't super hard to implement. Right, I have to actually implement the feature. So let us jump into our editor. And here we have the function that just got invoked. So you can see, here's my alert that has the to-do. And Annie's just told me about this cool extension that she installed in the project. So let's figure out how we can use that to send this restaurant recommendation. So if I jump over to the console, I can see in the extensions dashboard that I have a trigger email extension. And if I click through, I can see how this extension works with detailed documentation. Now, Annie chose sensible names for all of the things, but this is actually populated with the values that you provide. So if she had called the collection churros instead of mail, then that would show up here as churros. We just wanted to make it really easy for you to understand and jump into extensions. And we were talking about using the template feature because we're going to be sending a lot of these emails. We want to send them directly from the client. And so we want to be able to reuse the same thing without having to paste in an entire email body from the client every time. So let's see. You know what? I'm reading the documentation, but I'm just going to copy from the docs because that's what we do, right? So let's just go back over here, paste that in. And OK, we're not quite done yet. So we're sending to, this is sending to a user, but I want to send to an email address instead. So I'll just send that to the email that's passed into this function. We're going to call the template share. And here we're going to have the note and the restaurant information for the recommendation. All right, so I'm going to save that. Going to hit refresh. And we'll try sharing this again. Check out Prime Spot, it's live. So this time I hit share and there's no alert, which means that my code has changed at least. And if I pop over to the Firestore console and go to mail, I can see this document here where not only does it have the data that I added, but it also has this delivery data. And oh, the state looks like error. And if I see error tried to render non-existent template share. Well, that makes sense. I told it to use a template, but I didn't actually create the template. So why don't we go ahead and do that? I'll create a new collection called templates. And this is called share. We need a subject line for our email. So let's say friendly eats restaurant recommendation. So these are just handlebars templates. So I can use the data that I sent along in the message. And then HTML. You know what? I am not going to sit here and make you watch me write email HTML live on stage. So instead, I'm just going to copy this template that I've already written. You can see here it has my note. It has a little bit of information about the restaurant. But it's really just straightforward HTML. So I've created my template. And that's stored in Firestore. So that means whenever these templates are updated, any future mail that is sent using the trigger email extension will automatically get the latest version of the template. So going back to my mail collection, I can use another feature which allows me to retry mail that failed to deliver for some reason if I think it's going to succeed on another attempt. So I'm going to change this error to retry, save it, and you can see it processes. And this time, great, we have a success. We have the attempt number went up because I've tried this twice now. And hopefully, all right, I've got mail. So I've just received this email. And if I click through, there's the message that I typed and information about the restaurant. And I've implemented my sharing feature. Can we go back to the slides? So I just walked you through how I was able to implement a social sharing feature much faster than I could have otherwise by using Firebase extensions. But of course, sending email is just one of the extensions we're introducing today. There are 9 of them in all. And we've tailored each one to solve a specific problem quickly while being flexible enough to work for a wide variety of applications. Of course, this is really just the starting line. As we said, we've been listening to you. We're going to keep listening to you. So we're excited to have you try these out. And we're also excited to hear what other extensions you want to see in the future. Now, if you want to dive in and get started with extensions, you can find all of these on firebase.google.com. Just look for extensions. And we're also opening up the extensions repository today. So if you go to github.com/firebase/extensions, you can find the source code for all of these extensions, both that we've released today and that we'll release over the coming months and so forth. So that's all we have. I, for one, can't wait to see what all of you build with extensions. If you have any questions, Annie and I will be heading over to the Ask Firebase area right now, and we'd be happy to talk to you more. Thanks, and enjoy the rest of the Firebase Summit.